from the continent. Mon cher Michel, so happy to hear of your visit to Paris. I'll meet you at 12 noon on Saturday at the Café de la Musée. Look forward to seeing you. Au revoir, Suzanne. That's wonderful. Paris in the spring. Good night, London. Good morning, Paris. Only 6.5 hours by the Golden Arrow Limited, courtesy of the Southern Railway. The Southern Railway was the smallest of the big four companies formed following the reorganisation of the railways in 1923. It grew from the amalgamation of three companies: the South Eastern and Chatham, the London, Brighton and South Coast, and the London and South Western Railway. Unlike other regions where much of the rail traffic was industrial, the Southern was essentially a passenger service, and its poster advertising during the 20s and 30s reflected its role in carrying people to work and play. While the London and North Eastern were taking holidaymakers to the drier side of Britain, and the Great Western promoted the Cornish Riviera, the Southern called itself the Gateway to Sunshine and carried its passengers to the coast with most sun. And at your service on the journey were helpful staff like Sunny South Sam. One of the best-known posters issued and reissued by the Southern declared that summer comes soonest in the South. And when the summer was over, it was still time to go south for winter sunshine. And conducted rambles. The Southern certainly encouraged people to get out into the open air and enjoy the natural beauty of the English countryside. Swanage, Dorset for sunshine and health. Firm sand, safe bathing, golf, tennis, bowls. The only part of its territory in which the Southern had to contend with competition from another mainline railway was in the West Country, where it vied with the Great Western. But it was in the suburban areas around London that the most major development of the railway service took place. In the 1920s, the Southern was hit by the Depression and by competition from train and bus services. Sir Herbert Walker, the general manager, decided to embark on a scheme of electrification. The Waterloo to Wimbledon line had been electrified in 1915 by the old London and South Western Railway, and further extensions were made the following year. But this work then lapsed until 1925, when it was seen as the way to win the battle for customers. Sir Herbert Walker was a master of the practicalities of running a railway, but not so good at informing the public of what was going on. Consequently, the Southern was criticised for the poorer service resulting from improvement works. To counteract this, in 1925, Walker appointed Sir John Elliot as Public Relations Assistant, the first in Britain. He proved to be a most valuable addition to the company and successfully evolved a Southern style, making good use of posters and slogans. The posters might not have compared well artistically with those of, say, the London Underground, but as a selling point they worked and helped to create a Southern electric image. Electrification! World's greatest suburban electric. Southern Electric still growing. Now to Rochester, Chatham, Gillingham and Maidstone by Southern Electric. The Southern not only made it possible for people to live in pleasant suburbs while working in the city, but in association with housing developers, it positively encouraged people to move, producing such publications as A Residential Guide, The Country at London's Door. To the man who lives in London, The recent developments of the Southern Electric, pushing out into the very heart of Kent and Surrey and opening up virgin country for the busy city worker, are altering the conditions of living in a degree not dreamed of hitherto. The electrification of the Southern Railway's suburban lines has brought within easy daily reach of London many places actually in and surrounded by the real, beautiful country to be found everywhere south of the metropolis. Thus, London's daily workers can spend their leisure and sleep in pure air and in a beautiful country which before was more or less inaccessible. And in 1933, electrification reached the south coast. Brighton and Hove came within commuting distance of London. Electrification certainly resulted in more frequent services and faster journeys. The Southern not only maintained its passenger traffic, it increased it. Timetables were simplified by running trains at set times past the hour. Southern trains were not renowned for their luxury, but you knew when they would arrive. They were punctual and clean. But there were some famous trains where you would expect a bit of elegance, like the Brighton Bell, running daily throughout the year, as well as the celebrated Golden Arrow, which was inaugurated in 1929. The Southern also brought continental visits within the reach of ordinary middle-class families via ports such as Ramsgate, Folkestone and Dover. And equally, it encouraged foreigners to visit England. The jewel in the crown of the Southern Railway was Southampton docks, which were expanded many times during the 1920s. The pride they took in the docks and their importance to the railway was reflected in the Southern's publicity. Great Britain's premier docks. The world's greatest liners use Southampton docks. The distributing centre for new trade routes. The Southern Railway was badly affected by the Second World War. Cross-channel services had to cease in 1939, and of its 800 stations, 100 were in need of repairs following bombing raids. Sir Herbert Walker had retired in 1937, but Sir John Elliot remained, eventually becoming general manager himself. In fact, he was the Southern's last general manager and made the farewell speeches on the eve of nationalisation at the close of 1947. We seem to be approaching Dover. La France! Oh, dear. Where can she be? Garçon, this is the Café de la Musée, isn't it?
Non, monsieur.
Suzanne! Well, this has to be the right place. Sure she'll be here soon. Certainly is a glorious day.